But a year ago or so, I would say that the issue that really convinced me that we needed to talk and find out where the American people were on this issue, and that has to do with our foreign policy. And it was a reflection of the struggle I had from 1998 up until the 2003, to the time that we invaded Iraq. In 1998, the Iraq Liberation Act was passed. It was brought to the House floor, and I was one of few who stood up, because in that bill it said, our policy for the United States of America will be to impose regime change in Iraq. Well, I didn't like Saddam Hussein. He was a military dictator, and there were a lot of problems. But, you know, he had been our ally, and so it was sort of flip-flopping all over the place. And to me, I said in 1998, this is going to lead to war, and I'm positively opposed to it. So throughout all those years, I talked about it, and lo and behold, those who were determined to go to war had their war. Even the first meeting, a long time before 9/11, first meeting that the current administration had in January, the subject came up: when are we going to hit Iraq? And what is going on with this country? Why are we so obsessed, and why we as a people are willing to allow our government to take us to this? So it was for that reason that I did make my decision that we had to continue to talk about this and talk about foreign policy. I voted against that war, and right now I vote to get out of that war and to bring our troops home. So often comes up, whether it's in the debates or being interviewed, won't that cause chaos in Iraq? Yeah. What do we have over there? What do we cause ethnic cleansing? Well, what do we have there now? So all this argument that if we leave we're going to have chaos carries no weight whatsoever. It reminds me of the argument that I heard so often in the 1960s. I was called into military duty in 1962 during the Cuban crisis, and I served in the Air Force for 5 years. I did not go to Vietnam, but I served during that period of time. And it was always, we can't leave Vietnam. You know, there'll be chaos if we leave. And yet, finally, we had to leave under dire circumstances, embarrassingly so. But still, after 60,000 Americans were killed and hundreds of thousands, if not a million, Vietnamese were killed. And after 20 years of the French and the Americans telling the Vietnamese what to do with their country, we finally leave. And guess what? Now we're friends with Vietnam. China's become our banker. That's not all that bad. China's doing pretty good as a capitalist country. So what are we doing? We trade with them. The president of Vietnam comes over here. So exactly the opposite happened. What happened was we practiced what the founders told us. Be friends with people, talk to people, trade with people, travel, and to have the diplomatic relations. So we achieved in peace what 20 years of killing couldn't achieve in war. I just say that we need more of that policy, more diplomacy, and more friendship with world. Is why are we over there? And I don't have the final answer to that, because there's probably quite a few reasons. I'm sure some of the neoconservatives believe what they claim they believe, that it is our moral duty to spread our goodness around the world. The only thing I can't understand is how can you have a moral issue and spread it with force and guns and bombs? That cancels out all your moral imperative and all your good intentions. And others would say, well, we're there for our oil. And I've heard that said too, we're there for our oil. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Before we went into Iraq, before we went to protect our oil prices were $27 a barrel, now they're $111. That's not a very good deal. And how much have we spent? $1 trillion already. Stiglitz says this war could cost between $3 and $5 trillion before it's all over. And how do we pay for it? Well, we borrow a bunch from China. And then we tax the American people, then we still don't have enough money. Then we resort to printing the money. No big deal, just print the money. Then we wonder why the dollar's weak. Then we wonder why the prices go up. Then we wonder why the oil-producing countries want more dollars for their oil. Maybe because they're buying euros. and it takes more dollars. And it's all a complication of a foolish foreign policy where we're doing more than we should, and we should be doing a lot less. To maintain our empire today, it's costing us $1 trillion a year. And what are we getting for it? They say it's done out of national interest for national security reasons. And that can't possibly be true. We're less safe and less secure today. We have a military where the equipment's in bad shape. And we have morale very low. And we have thousands of soldiers coming back with post-traumatic stress syndromes and brain injuries and all kinds of injuries requiring long-time treatment. And yet, nobody wants to seem to really talk about the change in foreign policy. On the debates that we've had this past year, I kept saying we shouldn't be talking about what month we're coming home or how many troops we're going to have in the surge and what we're going to do next month. Tinkering with the management of a war that shouldn't be fought. What we need to be talking about is our foreign policy and why the founders were right that a non-interventionist policy of friendship is what we need. We don't need these perpetual wars.